Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. And for today's Marvel Superheroes Advanced Role-Playing Game rule set, we're going to be talking about resources. Now, I'm hoping this is going to be a complete video on resources. Comments below if I missed something, but this should take you from character generation and on through actual gameplay. So let's get started. With resources, you're going to start off with character creation, obviously. And on average, your typical character will start off with, I just said it, typical. You will start off with typical 5, okay? So you start off with typical resources, and then you're going to go to the ability modifiers table. Now, this will allow you that if you roll really low, like 15 or lower, you're going to be -1 to your resources. So you will start off with poor resources. You could roll from 16 through 50, and your resources will remain the same, typical. That's not bad. That's not bad. Remember, Peter Parker's resources is poor. So, and that's, the original version of Spider-Man way back in the day, living with Aunt May, working as a freelance photographer, and just failing at pretty much everything except superheroing. So there's also the chance that you can go +1 column shift, +2 column shift, maybe even +3 column shifts. So you have the opportunity to be at good, excellent, or remarkable. All right. Could you possibly get higher than that? Yes. Yes, you could. One of the ways that I would suggest doing it is by reversing what was already stated. For in character generation, I explained how you can go from having, let's say, excellent resources. You rolled up, you got excellent resources. Oh, but you know what? I want an extra power. So I'm going to take away 2 ranks of resources and go down from excellent down to typical, but I get 1 extra power. Or you could say, you know what, I've got excellent resources, but I want an extra talent or an extra contact. No problem. You're going to subtract 1 rank from your resources. So you'll go from excellent down to good. So your starting resources are good, but you have 1 extra talent than what you originally rolled. Okay, why not be allowed to go in reverse for that? I personally do not have any problem with that whatsoever. So you can say, okay, you know what? Here's a contact that I really, I'm supposed to have 2 contacts. I really only need 1. I don't need the second one. So let's just return that and then give me a +1 rank to my resources. I personally, as the judge, do not see any kind of an issue with that, but that's up to you as the GM. Of course, let your player suggest it to you. Don't you suggest it to your player. That's just my suggestion, because then it'll be your fault if they realize I needed that extra contact. So, and remember, this is only optional in character creation. You cannot do this later in the game. It's also important to note that resources can change in the game because the judge has willed it for whatever reason. So case in point, let's say the judge says, you know what, you've been doing such a great job at your job. You haven't been messing up lately. You've always been, for the most part, on time. You've been, increasing your productivity, whatever. Let's give you a raise. So I, as the judge, will give you a free +1 column shift to your resources. That's found karma, man. But at the same time, let's say you're somebody like Peter Parker. You keep on being late you keep on missing your deadlines and everything. And finally, J. Jonah Jameson is just like, you know what, dude, I've had enough of you, man. You are out. Maybe Daredevil's secret identity gets exposed. Boom. You can't be working there anymore, bud. You messed up. Maybe you're somebody like Tony Stark, who you now lost Stark Enterprises to Stain Enterprises. Wow, that's horrible. Your resources drop from incredible down to excellent. You have to work to get that back, bud. So there's all sorts of reasons why your resources could change. So keep that in mind during the game. The judge is allowed to just straight up change those resources. Just give a potentially good storyline reason. Okay, so you start off with typical. You can roll and wind up getting higher, lower, whatever. At the same time, mutants, whenever they're finished with that roll, will have a -1 to that. Okay? So let's say you're going to start off at typical. You're going to get bumped up to, let's say, excellent. You automatically get reduced 1 column shift. Okay? That being the case, you're now down to good. All right? Mutants have many pros, but they do also have some cons, and that is one of them. Now, high tech is a very interesting one. High tech is interesting because you can do that standard roll, typical, and see if you get better or potentially worse. But at the same time, you can also bypass the ability modifier table and just say, you know what? I'll just accept good 10 resources. So you can get an automatic, or so let's just say instead of rolling, you just get +1 to the standard resources. So you can start off at good resources. This might not be such a bad idea, especially if you're going to use a contact like, let's say, Jeffrey Madison, Jeffrey Box. You can say Roger Box instead. You can say Tony Stark is your patron. You can say Exo Manowar is your patron for all I care. The idea is, or let's say it's Hammer Enterprises, okay? Or MIT. MIT decides we need a superhero. You're a high-tech hero. You're going to be our hero. We're going to give you this good 10 as your salary resources, but we will be responsible for taking care of your armor anytime it's messed up or anything. We built it for you. So let's say you have a low reason. Okay, it's only like good 10. That's fairly low for a high-tech hero. You'll say, okay, I didn't actually build my suit. MIT built my suit. Students at MIT built my suit, professors or something. And now here we go. All sorts of options with resources in the positive for the sake of the high-tech hero, for what could be obvious reasons. All right, high-tech heroes need those extra boosts for resources and reason. Okay, now one particular character concept that I find interesting is the alien. Aliens, they say, start at a fixed rate of poor. Now, I did not see anything that said that they do not roll on the ability modifiers table. At the same time, I did not see anything that says that they do roll. Or I do see one thing that says they roll on the ability modifiers table afterwards, but not in the actual alien's description, which is interesting. So I don't know if they get poor and that's it, done. You have poor resources, or if it's just a different way of saying the exact same situation with the mutants. Mutants will have a -1 to whatever they wind up rolling. Their final result. You'll just simply bring it back by 1. Is that the exact same thing with aliens? I don't know, honestly. So you can, as a judge, you make the call, probably depending on the alien himself, or herself. So again, up to you. Now, it's important to remember that resources cannot go as low as shift 0. All right, shift 0 means that you're dead in anything. So, aside from popularity, that's not necessarily a shift. But with your resources, if you have no money coming in, that means you can't even so much as be sitting on the street corner, all right? Then you must be dead, all right? So resources will, as a rule, never go to shift 0 or negative. So feeble 2 is the absolute lowest that your resources can be. And that basically means that, you are a panhandler, or you get by on charity, donations, tips, things along that line. So keep that in mind. Now, moving on from there, we're going to see that, actually, I already talked about how you can buy powers, contacts, and talents, and up to you, as the judge, you can choose to reverse that also and increase your resources in that regard. Now let's talk about the resource feats. Okay, the resource feat, this is very different from the original system, and we'll get into that in just a moment. When I get into my pros and cons of this, I'm going to give you my opinion on the resource system. For now, the resource feat, which was introduced in the advanced set, is actually more like a credit check than anything else. All right, so let's say you have excellent 20 resources. Okay, not a problem. What's going to happen is once a week, you can roll to make a resource roll. You can roll to make a resource check, okay, or a resource feat. Now, why would you make a resource feat? For buying anything? No, absolutely not. If you need to buy something at your resources rank, okay, and you can see the lists, the various lists that there are, okay, so let's say something that is at excellent at excellent 20 rank would be, okay, salary for a computer specialist or a scientist, okay. You want to hire a scientist who's going to work on stuff while you're away. And we've seen this in modern day video games, right? Oh, you stay here and you work on something, but I need to hire some kind of a specialist or a manager to take over so they can do this stuff while I'm away. It's kind of like making it automated with an NPC, all right, as opposed to a robot. You can buy robots in the game too, I'm just saying. But that's the dealio. So If you're going to buy something at the same resource rank as you, then much like any other feat, you would have to make a yellow feat roll to succeed. So you're going to make a roll, and you have to, and according to your chart, so if you have excellent resource, you have to roll in excellent. You roll the dice. Let's say you get a 42. You're going to cross-check that, and you're going to see what is the color result. If you can make yellow or better, boom, you're golden, baby. You're golden. You have afforded this thing, all right? Red obviously is going to be the exact same thing. Green will fail. Green and white will both fail. Failure, mind you, indicates that you cannot purchase either that item or anything else at the same rank as that item for 1 week. So that's in gameplay. So however you're going to, as a judge, however you're going to divvy that up, that's how it is. 1 full 7-day week, they cannot make that resource feat again. Just means you didn't have the funds, whatever, man. Hey, save up and try again next week. See if your daily costs of living didn't interfere too much and you were able to purchase it this time. Hey, maybe next time consider spending karma. Mm-hmm. Now, what say you if you have to buy something that is 1 or 2 column shifts lower than your resource feat? Easy. You have to score green or higher. So a white fails, but green, you're good. So here's the trick of that, though. You've got excellent resources. You want to buy something that is typical resources or typical or good resources. Let's say you want to buy something that's typical resources. You make a roll some way or another. You fail. You actually get in the white. All right? You missed it by like a point. That means that funds were particularly tight that week. That means that you now cannot buy anything at typical or higher for the rest of this 7 days. All right? For 7 days starting at that point. It's just the way it is, man. It's just the way it is. So, that being the case, you want to try to avoid especially those lower feats. But if you were to fail something at your power rank, and then you want to buy something at a lower power rank, meaning you have to get a green or better instead of the yellow or better, you're free to make that roll. But if you fail, you're done. In the meantime, for the most part, once you get a success or the proper failure, you cannot make another feat roll. Another resource feat roll for another 7 days. So that indicates the next time you get your paycheck. And just leave it at that, because back in the day, back in the 80s, on average, people get a paycheck once a week. Now it's once every 2 or sometimes once a month. For technical positions, you get paid once a month. It's a great way to save 20 or 40 bucks a month on paper checks, even the receipts thereof. Okay, so what if you want to buy something that is 3 ranks or lower than your resource rank? You do not actually have to make a roll. Now that's important, because when I said that if once you fail or succeed in a resource feat, you're done for 7 days. You cannot roll again. But anything that is 3 column shifts or lower than your resource rank, that's just an automatic for you. So that means that if you want to go out and buy ammunition that only costs .4, and you've got your excellent rank, you could buy, for the most part, as much as that ammo as the judge says that's reasonable. All right? So, you want to buy 2 or 3 power packs, go for it. Have at it, Have at thee. So that's the way that these resource ranks are going to work. Now, you might notice I didn't say anything about making a red feat for something higher. That's because you can't. There is no such thing as buying something at a higher rank. That simply doesn't work, okay? Not with a feat roll, all right? Feat rolls, you can I learn this thing? Not from a Jedi, not from a red feat roll. So instead, you're going to have to do what's called getting a loan from the bank, all right? What this means is that now you can buy something at exactly 1 column shift higher than your resources. There is no need to make a roll. But once you do that, now for the next 2 months of the game, all of your resource feats will be at -2 column shifts. That's right. So your excellent research to buy something at Remarkable with a loan from the bank in order to pay back the bank, and you better pay back the bank. In order for you to pay back the bank, you have to make all of your feat rolls from that point on at typical. So you cannot buy anything bigger. And that's a fair way, I think. That's a very fair way of doing things. So 2 months, you're able to pay the bank back, you're good. How do you do something higher than, like 2 ranks are higher than your resources? You can't. You simply don't have that. Unless, of course, you're smart and you use a contact that is specifically geared towards money. So let's say you have Daddy Warbucks as your resources, or, Sugar Mama or Sugar Daddy X, as your contacts. Boom, you're golden, baby. You're golden. All right? So think about different ways so that you can actually get your resources flowing. On top of that, there is the combination skill. So if you were to combine 2 people's resources, it doesn't say that you could do this in the book, but it doesn't say you can't either. So this is kind of like pooling resources. So let's say you got 2 people in the team. Hey, man, I've got excellent resources and you've got good resources. We can combine if neither of us made a roll, a resources feat for this particular game session, this particular 7 days, in the last 7 days, then we can make a roll at remarkable in order to get something together. But it acts as though we both, and whoever wants to make the roll, designate it on your own. But if those same principles now apply. Can you quadruple up? Let's say here's 2 people that'll boost their resources to remarkable, and here's 2 more people that bump their resources to remarkable, and then you combine them. Can I now have incredible? That's up to the judge. There's absolutely nothing in the book about that, neither for nor against. I personally would be totally okay with that. I think that's a genius way of doing things, really pooling together some resources, okay? There are some countries in Africa that will call that a hagbed, and I dig that. I dig that. So pooling your resources like that. You can also technically have a group resources in order to do something to that effect. All right. If you have a team, if you have some kind of, with the headquarters and everything, one person can finance that, or you could try to make a pool in that regard. Again, there's nothing actually in the book for that I've seen, but by all means, have fun with it. Try and get it so that your team becomes something of a living, breathing entity. All right. And again, you're going to have to make up rules for that on your own, but we could talk about that at one point. Okay. After that, what else is there? There's not really that much else for the most part. So we'll talk about very quickly the previous game, the Marvel Superheroes regular role-playing game. So that first yellow box, there was just a point system basically for buying things. And while it was apparently easy for the poorer people, it is not easy for the more wealthy people. Okay? With that being what it is, which one do I prefer? Of those 2, I think that I would actually prefer the one that we've got right now, the advanced set. The advanced basic set, can you say that? Yeah. The advanced set is what I prefer over that because it limits all the scorekeeping that you're doing. Okay? Also, I did forget to mention, you do need to actually go to your job, all right, every so often. So that should be a part of gameplay, that you have to make time for whatever source you're going to use in order to make your money. All right? There is one way around that. And that is the heir to resources. What is it called? Heir to fortune. Okay, you are not allowed to take this if you have anything less than remarkable resources. So somebody like Warren Worthington III, the angel, he has what's called heir to fortune as a talent. It is not an actual talent. It just takes the talent slot. That means that you've inherited a lot of money. You don't have to worry about work. All right, This both helps, it helps the player, but it kind of takes away from the game a little bit. All the extra little things that you could do. Hey, man, you got to make money, I've run a game where I've got a character who was very rich, had incredible resources, all right? And I wound up getting him stuck in a lawsuit. So he was the one taking care of all the characters financially, and he wound up getting himself into a lawsuit. So now he's got to go to court and actually come up with reasons why, hey man, you messed up big time over here, okay? It's not such a great plan that you did, you wind up screwing up something really bad, and there's a public backlash. It affected your popularity, but so it affected his resources in a big way, put some of his stuff on hold, and he was audited. So with him being audited and he's got a secret identity, now he's got to be careful about how he spends resources, very specifically, not on his business or on himself, but on the other characters. So imagine this now. He's got a secret identity. If he starts spending money on the team, all of a sudden it looks like, hey, why are you spending money on this team? Because, hey, now his secret identity is basically in jeopardy. You see what I did there? So that's one of the many things you could do. And it's a great thing to actually have them have to work, have to actually earn their pay, so to speak. What do you call it? And players will have fun with it. I have a player who he actually is a vlogger. All right, he gives the news as a personal vlog. He uses his camera phone, and he will go out, and whenever there's a news situation, he'll just go on there and he'll boom, 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 like that. And when he's actually in superhero mode, he can simply go, hey, he does not have a private identity. He has a very public identity. So he's absolutely able just, hey, and that's how he gets his money coming in. So all sorts of different ways that you can have fun with having to have a job. Heir to resources. It might as well be called heir to resources. Heir to fortune is another thing entirely. Okay, so back to the idea now of how the old system worked and the new system work. Actually, I've given my opinion on that. My opinion, however, on other ways to use this, I don't actually like the resource feat roll. Again, I like it better than the point system because it's weird, it's different, it's unnecessary. This greatly sympathizes, it simplifies things a lot. But here's the trick with it, okay? It's just another reason to roll dice, albeit once a week on average. But it's also another way to have to spend karma and to increase your resources with karma. Look, if you don't have anything to buy and you don't have standard expenses and things like that somehow, all right, maybe your character's in the military and he runs off once in a while or whatever. So he's on a fixed income, all right, a fixed income of let's say, poor resources, but he's got everything taken care of. He's got 3 meals, very square meals a day. He's got room, board, everything taken care of. Hey, that's a good way to be. You don't need to spend your poor resources on anything, but you're still always going to have poor resources no matter what, even though you don't have any living expenditures, except for maybe, my civilian clothes got dirty, so I've got to, you can have a washing machine right there. Get all that stuff done for free. So, yeah, in my opinion, it doesn't make sense that you'd still have to, even on a fixed income, where all your expenses are taken care of, that you'd still only have poor resources, let's say. So I do like the idea of just using a basic monetary system instead. Hey, man, every single week you're supposed to get, or you can also, make do with, every 2 months, or every month or every 2 weeks, you're going to get this set amount. And then the player's just simply responsible for that. This way you don't have to spend karma on any other thing like that. You don't have to spend karma on building your resources. Just save your money, But you can still have basic living expenditures for everything. Oh, you got to pay the electric bill. You got to pay the water bill. You got to pay this, that, and the other thing. And here's for miscellaneous. You just take a percentage of what their standard is and then, say, okay, well, that's the miscellaneous fees, all the little stuff like that. But the system that we currently have here, the resource feat roll, is still good. It is still good. Okay. Let's say, for instance, a meal. Okay. At let's say McDonald's would be a feeble cost. Hey man, somebody like Peter Parker, who's got poor resources, would have to make a green feat in order to be able to afford food at McDonald's. All right. For let's say he and Aunt May. All right. On average, figure meals are for 2 people. Otherwise, it's a little bit too freaky. So if Peter wants to take his Aunt May to Burger King or something, boom, there you go. Make a green feat roll. You've got enough money for that. But now let's say you want to take her out to a real nice dinner. That's typical resources. He can't afford a real nice restaurant. Peter Parker simply cannot. There is no way he can afford a really nice restaurant unless somebody gives him the money or he takes a loan from the bank, which would be devastating for him. Devastating. Let's say you want to go on a night on a town, which is more, what is that, good resources? Night on the town, yeah, it's good resources. Broadway tickets, excellent. Dinner and a movie is typical. So like there's a bunch of different things that you can do, and all that I just described is on page 59 of the player's book, the advanced player's book. So there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do with this, but I'm of the opinion you could take any other system that just has standard cash and just simply use that instead. Anything that's set in the modern world, and just make your own cash value for things. On average, your average person knows how much a Happy Meal, whatever those are called. I'm not a big fan of McDonald's, but the standard supersized meal or whatever is, so that you can, how much is that usually called? What is that, like $7-8? So the person spends $7-8. You got $7-8, you can afford the meal. Oh, you want to take your Aunt May? Double that. Easy peasy, easy peasy. We all do these things. You want to use Starbucks or something like that, your coffee house? Okay. How much does the latte cost? Probably about as much as dinner at McDonald's, right? So just figure it out that way instead. Or just continue using the resources feed and you're golden. If you got a lot of money, a lot of these small costs really don't mean anything to you, right? So that's it for the resource and resource feed. I pretty much think that everything's covered there. Again, if I missed anything, let me know. For the most part, just flip around through the player's handbook. You will find plenty, I said plenty, of charts to show you how much these different things out there cost. Different versions of cars, weapons, ammo, and miscellaneous objects. Plus, on top of that, hotels and houses and apartments, brownstones. Who uses brownstones anymore? So there are plenty of charts to take a look at. All right, guys. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. You keep gaming now, you hear? Class dismissed.
Thank you.